everyone, Varun here from Language Academy.
Hope you all are doing well. In this video, I'll be covering the Retell Lecture task from your speaking module. One of the very important tasks and one of the tasks which carries a lot of points in both your speaking and as well as in your listening section. And one of the tasks a lot of students even find very hard. So before I begin the video and before I explain each and everything in detail how you have to do this task, let's have a quick look of what all I'll be going through in this video. So in this video, I'll have a in-depth look at the task description, that is what all is included in this task and what you have to do in this task. Then we'll have a look at the marking criteria of this task, that is on what basis and what parameters are you awarded points in this particular task, and how to score the maximum points in this task. Then we'll have a look at different tips and strategies as well as your templates which you can use in your exam to approach Retell Lecture, which I also used in my exam, and as a result I got 90 in speaking. And furthermore, we'll have a look at few of the very common mistakes which a lot of students do make while approaching this task, and we'll also have a look at few of the tips to avoid those mistakes and get the maximum out of this task. So without any further delays, let's get started. So in this task, what happens is you hear an audio which will be somewhere around 60 to 90 seconds long, and most probably it will be a lecture or a conversation between two different people, right? And what you have to do is, while the lecture is going on for 60 to 90 seconds, which is most often the case, in those 60 to 90 seconds you have to make notes as much as you can. You have to write down as much as information you can from the lecture, because once the lecture stops, within 10 seconds you will get 10 seconds to prepare. After those 10 seconds you will have to retell the lecture. Retell the lecture, you have to give a bit of summary and main idea of the lecture in your own words for around 40 seconds. So you will have to speak about the lecture for 40 seconds. To do this, you need a lot of information and notes from the lecture. So make sure while the lecture is going on, you write as much as from the lecture. Again, lecture will go on for around 60 to 90 seconds. Once the lecture stops, you will have 10 seconds to prepare, only 10 seconds to prepare. And then after 10 seconds, you will have 40 seconds in which your microphone will open up, your recording will start, and you have to retell the lecture in your own words for around 40 seconds. Now, let's have a look at how your screen will look like in your exam. Now, before we move on to the tips and strategies and templates you have to use while approaching your Retell Lecture, let's have an in-depth look at the marking criteria of this task, and we'll also have a look at the different bases and parameters on which you are awarded points in your Retell Lecture. So altogether, your one Retell Lecture carries 15 points. You get 5 points for fluency, 5 points for pronunciation, and 5 points for content as well. So now, before I explain these three parameters in detail, a very important point to note over here is that you get points in listening as well as in speaking from your Retell Lecture. So that means if your speaking scores or your listening scores are low, or if you are struggling in listening section, you should make sure that you do this task very well, so that along with your speaking scores, your listening scores can go up as well, right? So again, you get 15 points in each Retell Lecture. You get 5 points for fluency, 5 for pronunciation, and 5 for content. Now, how these three parameters are marked and how do you get points in that, right? So you get 5 points for fluency. So in order to get 5 points in fluency, you have to focus on these four important things. The first one is you don't repeat anything. Whatever you say, you have to go in a flow, you have to go at a natural pace, right? The next one is you don't hesitate anywhere, you don't make any hesitating sounds such as or which a lot of non-native speakers like us, like me as well, we are habitual to make it. So make sure you don't make any kind of hesitating sounds, right? Then third comes that you don't pause anywhere. Any long pause or short pause, doesn't matter if you know the Retell Lecture or you are not sure about the content, you don't have to stop speaking. This will also become when I'll tell you the template you have to use in your Retell Lecture, right? So make sure that you don't repeat anything, you go in a flow at a natural pace, not too fast, not too slow, and you don't pause anywhere. And the last one is you don't ever correct yourself. Doesn't matter if you have said wrong or if you think that you have missed the important information, you need to say something else in that place. Don't worry about correcting it. Correcting anything or repeating anything will straight away hinder your fluency and you will lose your points in fluency. So to make sure that you get full 5 points in fluency, make sure that you go in a flow at a natural pace. You don't hesitate anywhere, you don't stop anywhere, and you never repeat yourself or you never correct yourself, right? So if you follow these 4 to 5 things, you will 110% get full 5 points in your fluency. And fluency is the main base of your speaking. In PTE, the most important thing in your speaking section is your fluency. So make sure you follow these 5 things in order to get maximum points in your speaking section. Now, next comes your 5 points for pronunciation. Now, what does pronunciation means? Basically, in PTE, pronunciation means that you should be, or your speech or your English should be clear enough for a native speaker to understand you without any extra effort. So what you have to make sure over here is that whatever you speak is very clear. And another thing what works in PTE is you are loud enough. So in order to get maximum points in your pronunciation, you have to make sure that you are loud enough and clear enough so that the computer can understand you very easily. Another very big mistake which a lot of students do make over here is that we try to imitate the accent. We don't try to stay, or we don't try to sound natural. We try to copy others' accent, right? We all need to understand that PTE is a software or a test. It is developed or designed for non-native speakers. We need to understand this fact that it will understand or recognize all the accents. Don't worry about imitating any accent. This will hinder the clarity in your voice. So make sure whatever you say, you stay in your natural accent, given that whatever you are speaking is clear and you are loud enough. Even I don't have a native English accent, but still I got 90 in speaking. So don't worry about imitating or copying any accent. Whatever you speak, you have to be loud enough, clear enough. Go with your natural accent. That doesn't really matter. All what matters is you are loud and you are clear. That actually works in PTE, and PTE software actually recognizes most of the accents. It is a software developed for non-native speakers, and it is meant to understand our accent, given that we are clear and we are loud, right? So that is how you will get full 5 points in pronunciation. And then next comes your 5 points for your content. Very important points, as from these 5 points you will also be marked in your listening section. To make sure that you get full 5 points in content, how you get full 5 points in content is that you present or you give all the key important ideas or key important points from the lecture in your summary. While you are recording your answer, while you are retell the lecture, you have to make sure that you provide all the key ideas or key points or key highlights in your retell lecture. This doesn't mean that you have to include each and every information, but few key ideas will do the job for you, right? But make sure what you have to do over here to get full 5 points in your content, you have to follow a particular structure. Now structure means, first of all, you have to give an introduction what the lecture was about. After that, you will have to mention around 2 to 3 key ideas or supporting ideas mentioned in the lecture, right? And finally, a very important, you have to provide conclusion. If you won't provide a conclusion, you won't be able to score full 5 points in content. It is very clearly mentioned in PT's official guidelines as well. To get full 5 points in your conclusion, you have to mention or present all the key ideas from the lecture or from the audio along with a logical conclusion, right? So make sure your structure has an introduction, and then your body, and then your conclusion. So these 3 things are very important to get full 5 points in content. Now this will become more clear once we go through the rest of the video, that how you have to structure your retell lecture, what points you don't have to include, and what you have to include from your lecture in your retell lecture, right? Once we go through the templates and tips and strategies, this thing will become more clear, that how you have to approach and what structure you have to use while doing your retell lecture. Now, as you guys have a bit of idea that what you have to do in this task, what you will get in this task, and on what basis and what parameters are you marked in this task. So now next, let's have a look at few of the tips and strategies as well as the templates you can use while approaching retell lecture. So the 2 most important things in retell lecture which you have to consider, and without which doing retell lecture is very hard, it's that you have to first of all manage your time very properly, and you have to make very good notes. You need to be very good at making notes, right? Now let's have a look at how you have to manage your time, and then we'll have few of the tips and strategies you will have to use while making your notes, right? So as you can see on your screen right now, your time slots are divided into 4 different periods, right? So before the audio starts, as soon as you press next from your describe image and you move on to retell lecture task, you will only have 3 seconds before your audio starts or before your lecture starts, right? So what you have to do in these 3 seconds is that you don't need to worry about anything. Just make sure that your pen and your notepad are ready to make notes, because once the lecture starts, the lecture will go very fast, and if your notepad and your pen are not ready, it will be a bit difficult for you to get maximum information, right? Again, once the lecture starts, your lecture will go around 60 to 90 seconds, as I have told you earlier as well. So in those 60 to 90 seconds, you have to write as much as you can. You have to gather all the key important information in an organized manner. Now by organized manner, I mean that you have to make your notes very properly, because you don't have much time to prepare before your recording starts once the lecture stops. So you need to make sure that your notes are very clear, so that you can easily read off the notes and go in a flow without hesitating or without thinking anything when you are retelling your lecture, right? So once the lecture stops, you will have a lot of notes on your notepad, and after the lecture stops, you only have 10 seconds to prepare, right? In these 10 seconds, what you have to do is you have to go through your notes as much as you can and get an idea that what you have to say and how you have to say, such as what you have to say in the introduction and what you have to say in the conclusion. And body, you can state any 3 main key ideas and that will be fine, but giving an introduction and a conclusion should be very clear in your mind before your recording starts. Why? Because if you will think while you are speaking, you will hesitate 110%, and that will hinder the fluency, and you will lose a lot of points in fluency as well as in your content. So make sure everything is very clear in your mind before the recording starts, that what you have to give in your introduction, in your body as well as in your conclusion, so that you don't stop or pause anywhere, or you don't have to think while you are retelling your lecture, and you go in a flow without stopping anywhere, right? Now let's have a look at few of the very important things and tips you have to keep in your mind while you are making notes. Because note making is the base of retell lecture, you have to make sure you follow these steps in order to make best notes and do best in the retell lecture task, right? So the first thing you have to make sure while making your notes is that whatever you write is very clear and you can easily understand that. A lot of time I have seen that students, what they do is they just keep on writing the information, but at the end, when they have to retell the lecture, they can't even understand their handwriting. It's fine if you write less, but it's not fine if you write a lot and you don't even understand what you have written. So the first thing, you make sure that you write clearly in an organized manner. That is, for every different sentence you are moving on to a different line, so that at the end when you are reading off your notes while the recording is going on, you don't stuck anywhere and you go in a flow, right? Again, as you can see on your screen as well, even if you write 6 to 7 broken lines or group of words, that will be more than enough to retell the lecture. Now by broken lines, I mean that all the keywords within a sentence, but you don't really need to worry about the articles such as a and the, or is and something like that as well. So you only have to write the key information from the sentence. Even if you have 6 to 7 group of words, important group of words or important sentences, you can more than easily do your retell lecture, and you can do it very well actually. Now the next thing you have to keep in your mind while you are making notes is that you write down all the important keywords. By keywords, I mean the main important things which they talked about in the lecture, such as name of a person is a keyword, name of a place is a keyword, the main topic of the lecture is a keyword, any technical terms told in the lecture about anything is a keyword, any date or any time period is also a keyword. So make sure you focus more on important keywords such as a name of a person, place or any organization, any time period, any technical terms, main topic of the lecture, as well as any quotes or places they mentioned about in the lecture, right? The next thing is a very important thing that a lot of students, this is a very common mistake among a lot of students, what they do is while they are making notes and if they listen to a sentence, they try to write it completely, right? And by the time, if they are not able to recall the sentence, what they do is they just keep on thinking it, trying to recall it, and as a result they miss whole of their lecture. In case if you miss anything, or you only remember, or you can only recall the first part of a sentence talked about in the lecture and you can't recall the second part, don't worry about it, don't try to recall it, you will end up wasting a lot of your time, right? So what you have to do is, whatever you have missed, don't worry about it, just move on to the next point. Write as much as you can of your next point. Don't worry about if you can't recall anything, just skip it and move on to the next point, right? Again, the same thing as I have told you, make sure your notes are very organized, very clear, so that it is very clear and easy for you to read them while you are retelling the lecture. Because if you won't be able to read them, you will hesitate as a result, and that will hinder the fluency and you will lose a lot of points, because fluency is the main base of your speaking, right? So make sure whatever you write, it's fine to write less, but write clear and write in an organized manner. Because what happens is, you don't have much time to organize your notes once the lecture stops. You only have 10 seconds and they are not enough at all. So you have to make sure while you are writing your notes, or while you are making notes, you are gathering information or retaining information from the lecture, you retain it in a very clear and proper manner, so it's very easy for you to retell the lecture when the recording starts. Now, as you guys have a bit of idea that how you have to make your notes and how you have to manage your time in your retell lecture, now what we'll do is, I'll move on to the structure of your retell lecture. As I have told earlier in the video as well, your structure should include an introduction, a body, and the most important and very important, I'll say, conclusion, right? So let's have a look at few of the templates and different sentences that you can use to introduce your lecture, to give a body, and to provide a conclusion as well. So in your introduction, what you will do is, you will basically provide the main idea or the main topic of the lecture, and your introduction will have around 1 to 2 sentences maximum, and this will go around for 7 to 8 seconds, right? Then comes your body. Body will present all the key ideas and highlights mentioned in the lecture. This will contain around 3 to 4 or sometimes 5 sentences, or sometimes even less sentences, and will go around for 18 to 22 seconds at most, right? And then finally comes your conclusion. Your conclusion will most of the time only contain one sentence, that will be your concluding sentence presenting the overall idea lecture wanted to give, and this will go around for 5 to 6 seconds. So if you combine your introduction, your body, and the conclusion all together, you can easily make up around 35 to 40 seconds if you follow the same structure. Now let's have a look at few of the templates and different sentences which you can straight away use as they are for introducing your lecture, to give a body of your lecture, and finally to provide a conclusion for your lecture. So first of all, let's have a look at how you have to introduce your lecture, right? So to introduce your lecture, as you have got these two different sentences on your screen, you will have around 1 to 2 sentences in your introduction. As I have told you before, the very first sentence of your introduction will introduce the main topic of the lecture, right? So you can use any of the given 5 sentences to introduce your lecture. You can just say, the lecture demonstrated vital information about whatever the topic for the lecture was. If the topic of the lecture was air pollution, you can just say, the lecture demonstrated vital information about air pollution, right? And for the second sentence, you can say, a number of advantages or disadvantages or whatever was mentioned in the lecture were discussed in the lecture. Now for example, let's say if the lecture mentioned about the harmful effects of air pollution, so in the second sentence of your introduction, you can say, a number of effects of air pollution were discussed in the lecture. So if you say these two sentences, sentence 1 and sentence 2, you will easily go around 8 to 10 seconds, and this will be more than enough to introduce your lecture, right? Now next comes your body. Body will have 3 to 4 sentences and most probably will go around something 18 to 22, 23, 24 seconds. And for your body, you can use any of the sentences on your screen, right? To introduce the first part of the body, you can say, in the beginning, the lecture discussed crucial details about your idea 1. Or idea 1 means whatever information you have got from the lecture, or whatever group of words or broken sentence you have got from the lecture, you can join that at the end of the first sentence. Let's say if you have got diseases caused by air pollution, right? So you can just say, in the beginning the lecture discussed crucial details about the diseases caused by air pollution, right? So that will be the first sentence of the body. You can use other two sentences if you are comfortable with them, or if you are more confident that you can speak those two sentences better than the first one, right? Again, it's completely dependent on you, whichever you want to use. Now for the second sentence, you can just say, furthermore the lecture also demonstrated important information about dash, and over here you will put your idea number 2 or group of words which you have got from the lecture, or whatever information you have got from the lecture on this in the second place, right? Similarly, in this one as well, you can use any of the other two sentences. Let's say for the second idea, you have got diseases such as asthma and respiratory diseases which are caused by air pollution. So you can just say, furthermore the lecture also demonstrated important information about diseases such as asthma and respiratory diseases caused as a result of air pollution. So that will be the second sentence of your body, right? Now moving on to the third sentence of your body, you can just say, additionally some light was also thrown on idea number 3. Let's say for your idea number 3, you have got something like a lot of people are dying because of air pollution in India. Just say, you can just say, additionally some light was also thrown on the number of people dying because of air pollution in India, right? And that will be your end of your body. Again, if you want to add one more sentence, or if you have a lot of information, or if you think that you are running short of time, you can add one more sentence, that is sentence number 4 in your body, and that will be more than enough to give an idea or key highlights from the lecture in your body. You can mention somewhere around 3 to 4 ideas, right? So if you combine your whole body, your body will look something like this. Sentence 1 plus 2 plus 3. The first crucial aspect revealed in the discourse was idea number 1. Then furthermore, another significant point mentioned in the lecture was idea number 2. Additionally, the lecture also exhibited important information about idea number 3. Now make sure whenever you start your Retell lecture or you give information in the Retell lecture, always use past tense unless and until the lecture is talking about something they are talking about the future sentence. If they are talking something normal, you have to retell the lecture in past tense, that they were discussing or it was discussed, right? Don't say it will be discussed or they are discussing, because the lecture is already gone and they were discussing in the past, so you also have to stay in the past tense. But if they mention something about the future, over there you can use your future tense. But unless and until they are not telling you anything about future, make sure you retell your lecture in the past tense. Now finally, once you finish your introduction and your body, you will need to come up to a conclusion, and conclusion is very important because it is straight away provided in the PTE's guideline that you have to provide a conclusion in order to get full 5 points in your content. Even if you don't provide a conclusion, you may get full points in fluency and pronunciation, given that you are going in a flow and you are clear, but you won't get full 5 points in content if you don't provide a conclusion, right? So to provide a conclusion, you will only give one sentence at the end, and that will go around for 5-6 seconds, right? To give your conclusion, you can just use any of the given sentences. You can just say, in conclusion, the lecture indicated that, right, along with the keywords, whatever keyword or idea you have got from the lecture. Or you can say in conclusion, or you can say overall the lecture suggested that, whatever you have got whatever conclusion you have got from the lecture, right? But a lot of times what happens is students are not able to get a logical conclusion from the lecture. Don't worry about it. Even if you don't have a logical conclusion from the lecture, what you have to do is just use the sentences on the bottom of your screen. Just say, in conclusion, the lecture provided in-depth details about the topic. Let's say your lecture was about air pollution, so just say, in conclusion, the lecture provided in-depth details about the air pollution, right? Or you can just say, overall the lecture exhibits vital information about air pollution, and that will be more than enough. That will be fine. But again, first focus on finding an accurate conclusion. But in case you are not able to recognize or you are not able to find a logical conclusion, go for this thing. Just say, overall the lecture provided you a lot of information about the main topic, and that will do as well. But again, focus more on finding a logical conclusion. That is a better way, right? So if you join your introduction, body or your conclusion, you will have something like this, a complete template of your Retell lecture. You can use the same template while doing your Retell lecture in your exam as well, and while practicing at home as well. I used the first template while I went for my exam and I got 90 in all of the sections. So make sure you practice a lot before actually going for your exam using these templates, so that you have a complete idea that where you have to use which sentence, right? And the using the template is a very good way to approach this task. So what I'll do now is I'll play a sample lecture which has been in the real exam as well, and I'll make notes. I'll wait for you guys. I'll give you a minute or so that you can get your notepad and pen. While the lecture is going on, I'll make notes and I'll ask you please to make notes as well. And at the end of the lecture, we can compare our notes so that you can find that where you are going wrong or how you can improve in your note making strategies. So I'll give you around 30 seconds. If you want, you can get your pen and paper, and after that I'll play the lecture. I'll make notes and you can have a look at how I make notes. You can implement that same strategy while you make notes, and that is gonna be very easy for you. You will see how I write very less information, but still I can explain the lecture for around 35 to 40 seconds. Another very important point I missed in the very beginning, that PTE tells you that you have to retell the lecture for 40 seconds. Now you don't have to really go up till exact 40 seconds. You can go anywhere around 35, 36, 34 seconds, and that will be more than enough, right? So you will see how I make notes, how I write a bit of information, but I still go on with that for around 35 seconds, given that I'll provide an introduction, body and a conclusion as well. So I'll give you 30 seconds now. Go and get your notepad and pen and paper, whatever you like to, and then we'll make notes and then we'll do the retell lecture task.
Mary Mallon, better known as Typhoid Mary, was the first person in the United States identified as an asymptomatic carrier of the pathogen associated with typhoid fever. She was presumed to have infected 51 people, 3 of whom died over the course of her career as a cook. She was twice forcibly isolated by public health authorities and died after a total of nearly 3 decades in isolation. From 1900 to 1907, Mallon worked as a cook in the New York City area for 7 families. In 1900, she worked in Mamaroneck, New York, where, within 2 weeks of her employment, residents developed typhoid fever. In 1901, she moved to Manhattan, where members of the family for whom she worked developed fevers and diarrhea, and the laundress died. Mallon then went to work for a lawyer. She left after 7 of the 8 people in that household became ill. In 1906, she took a position in Oyster Bay, Long Island, and within 2 weeks, 10 of the 11 family members were hospitalized with typhoid. She changed jobs again, and similar occurrences happened in 3 more households. She worked as a cook for the family of a wealthy New York banker, Charles Henry Warren. When the Warrens rented a house in Oyster Bay for the summer of 1906, Mallon went along too. From August 27th to September 3rd, 6 of the 11 people in the family came down with typhoid fever. The disease at the time was unusual in Oyster Bay, according to 3 medical doctors who practiced there.
So in case if I use the same template I discussed in the video before to retell this lecture, my response will be something like this. The main topic of the lecture was Mary Mallon, who was the first person in the United States to be associated with typhoid. The first crucial aspect revealed in the lecture was that she infected 51 people, out of which 3 died. Furthermore, another important point mentioned in the lecture was that she worked as a cook and residents over there as well developed fever. Additionally, the lecture also exhibited important information about the fact that she worked for a lawyer and at Oyster Bay, where 10 out of 11 people were hospitalized. In conclusion, the lecture provided in-depth details about the typhoid fever caused by Mary Mallon. So, if you use the same template, you can easily go for around 30 to 35 seconds, and you don't even need a lot of information from the lecture. Whatever you need to do is you just need to make good notes, clear notes from the lecture, so that you can easily add whatever information you have got from the lecture with the template. So that way, if you use the template and you manage your time properly, you write your notes very well, you will be easily able to include all the key points. You will be able to include an introduction, a body, and finally a very important conclusion. You will finish off your Retell lecture in 30 to 35 seconds, and you will get a lot of points in both speaking as well as in listening. Now, if you think that you can't really memorize the template and you want to add more information, you are very good at note making and you want to add a lot of information from the lecture in your answer, you can do something like this. The main topic of the lecture was Mary Mellon, who was the first person in United States to be associated with typhoid. First point mentioned was that she infected 51 people, out of which 3 died. Second point discussed was that she died after 3 years in isolation. Another point discussed in the lecture was that she worked as a cook and residents over there as well developed the same fever. Another fact revealed in the lecture was that she worked for a lawyer and at Oyster Bay, where 10 out of 11 people were hospitalized. After that, she kept on changing jobs and also worked for Charles Henry. In conclusion, the lecture provided a lot of information about typhoid fever caused by Mary Mellon. So this is how you can include a lot of information from the lecture without using any kind of template. So it's completely dependent on you how you want to retell your lecture. If you are not very good at making notes, you can use the template because your template has got a lot of words, and that will help you to go around for 30 to 35 seconds very easily. Again, if you don't really want to memorize the template, you don't want to cram anything, you want to make everything by yourself, you can use the second response. You can just say things like first point mentioned, second point mentioned, or another fact or another point mentioned in the lecture to connect your ideas or information whatever you have got from the lecture. That way also you will be easily able to go around 30 to 35 seconds. But make sure in any case, if you use the template or if you don't use the template, make sure that you include an introduction, a body, and a very important conclusion. If you provide your response in the same way, you will be easily able to go for around 30 to 35 seconds, and you will also get a lot of points in both your listening and your speaking. Now, as you guys have a bit of idea that how you have to use the template and how you have to approach this task, you have an idea how this task looks like, what is the marking criteria, and how you have to use the template, and few of the tips how you have to approach this task. We'll have a look at few of the common problems a lot of students do face while doing your Retell lecture, right? So one of the very common mistake and common problem a lot of students do face is that they are not able to get much information from the lecture. Most of them, they even have around 5, 6, 7 keywords, that's it from the lecture, and they don't know how they'll go for 40 seconds. Now, the first thing I'll say, the lesser information you have, it will impact the points you'll get in your content. Even if you have less information from the lecture, you can still get a lot of points, but what you have to do is, you don't have to stop anywhere. Now, what I mean by this is, even if let's say you have 7 or 6 keywords from the lecture, you have to keep on going for at least 30 to 35 seconds and keep on paraphrasing the same thing, saying the same bit of information in another words, so that you can get something in fluency and something in pronunciation, right? Obviously, you won't get 100% points in content, but if you go in a flow, you don't stop anywhere and you are clear enough, you'll get good points in your fluency and pronunciation, because 5 points are awarded for your fluency and 5 are awarded for your pronunciation, right? And you may get few points in your content as well. But again, even if you have around 4, 5, 2, 3, whatever keywords you have, don't stop before 30 seconds. Just keep on going, use the template, just add the keyword at the end of each sentence I have provided you. Don't ever stop before 30 seconds. Doesn't matter if you have got the right content or not. Keep on repeating the same content in other words, but make sure you go for 30 seconds. Again, if you don't have anything to say from the lecture, you didn't even get a single word, what you can do in that case, if you have an image along with the lecture, you can describe that image as we do in describe image. Don't stop before 30 seconds, doesn't matter what the case is, just describe the image as your Retell lecture, because almost always the image is related to the lecture, right? So it is So it is possible that you may get some points in fluency and pronunciation. Obviously you won't get that high points in your, or you won't score that high points in your content, but still you will get points in fluency and pronunciation, and that is obviously better than getting nothing in this task, because this is one of the very important tasks and one of the very highly marked tasks, I'll say, and you get points in listening as well as in your speaking section. So make sure, whatever the case is, doesn't matter if you have keywords, if you have information from the lecture or not, you have to at least go for 30 seconds and keep on paraphrasing the same thing, but don't stop before 30 seconds, doesn't matter what the case is, right? Now that was the end of the video. I hope that the explanation and the tips and techniques made it very clear for you guys that how you have to solve and approach this particular task. If you will still have any doubts, you can contact us anytime on the numbers given below on your screen, and we will be more than happy to assist you anywhere and at any time. At last, if you like the video, hit the like button, share the video and hit the subscribe button. Along with the subscribe button, please make sure that you hit the bell icon so that you can be notified whenever we upload a new video or whenever we conduct a live webinar or mock exam on YouTube. Alongside, you can also like our Facebook page, where we will be regularly posting a lot of material and updates related to your PTE exam. The link to our Facebook page is in the description box below. And now that will be the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching this video till the very end. I'll see you guys very soon in the next video. Thank you very much.